Hello and welcome along to this UCAS International podcast with me, Robbie James, and on today's episode we are talking all things life in the UK. We're going to discuss the application process, also when you get here, how do you sort things like accommodation, and also what clubs, societies and other things are available in the UK. We're going to do it with the lovely Malcom Kazimil, who is with us, a student at Bristol University. Malcom, welcome to the podcast. Nice to have you on.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here.
It is. It was an honor to have you on. Thank you very much indeed. Also joined by Arya Güneş as well, a student at the Royal Academy of Music. It's nice to have you on, Arya. We did say you were on a previous episode in this series, and we did say that you're only allowed on if you bring your cello, and you haven't brought the cello.
Oh, it's such a shame, honestly. I am so sorry. But I will make sure to bring it next time.
Okay, well, that's if, yeah, all right, steady on. That's if you're invited next time. You did have one option there and you didn't take it. Listen, lots to get into on this podcast. Shall we start by learning a little bit more about both of you? So, Malcom, maybe we'll start with you. University of Bristol you're at. What are you doing? How long have you been here? And where have you come from?
I come from Tanzania, East Africa. And I've been in Bristol for 2 years now. I'm in second year studying electrical and electronics engineering. And
The 3 E's. Good.
Triple E,
yeah.
And a bit about myself is that I love the UK and I had so many options before coming to the UK. But I'm grateful and happy to be here.
And of course, for you, Arya, anyone else that hasn't listened to the other episode that you were on, you, of course, at the Royal Academy of Music. Why did I mention the cello there?
Because I played the cello. And I'm basically doing a Bachelor of Music at the Royal Academy of Music, and I specialize in cello, and I've been playing cello for the past 10 years. And I'm originally from Turkey, but outside of term time, I currently live in Spain. So it's a bit of a mixed situation.
Yeah. You follow the sun, I see.
Yeah,
That's a good
exactly.
idea. I like that.
Exactly.
Good stuff. Well, lots to get into on this podcast. Shall we maybe start at the start in terms of the application process when you're coming to the UK? Arya, how did you kind of find the application process as a whole? When did you start thinking about coming to the UK?
I actually found it very easy. I applied through UCAS, of course.
That's good. You know,
Yes.
I'm pleased that you said that.
Yes. I found it very easy. I started thinking about it a year prior to coming to the UK. So at the beginning of my last year in high school. And also because for the Royal Academy of Music specifically, I believe the application deadline was at the end of October. So I had to make my sort of decisions in terms of which schools I was going to apply for quite fast. But the UK was definitely a top option for me because specifically for my circumstances, I had been an international student previously in Spain, and I found it very difficult not knowing the language when I went there, and it was a challenging process just adapting to the environment and also, like I said, the language, because I didn't speak any Spanish at first. So I wanted to do my undergraduate degree in a place where I did actually speak the language and I feel quite comfortable with English. So I initially applied in the UK and I also applied in the US, but the US is quite far and I also wanted to be close to my family and my loved ones as well. So that was how I sort of made my decision. I applied to several schools. I actually did, I think, all of my applications through UCAS. Yes, I'm pretty sure. And it was a very smooth process in general. I found everything very easy through the platform.
Good. We can clip that up for the marketing team there of the podcast. Perfect. Lovely little testimonial. Malcom, similar story for you, or?
A bit similar, but I started in year 12, just like you. And the application process was pretty straightforward. But then writing the personal statement, that was something. But then one thing I very much enjoyed from the application process was that when you had to do one essay for 5 schools, so that was quite it was quite a good experience. And when it comes down to looking for the schools, I think it was quite nice that we had all the information on the website, in the sense that the university, what they offer, the grades, the need, and the support if need be, on who to reach out to and for what purposes.
And what kind of things were you looking for? Were you prioritizing sort of location? Was it things like the language or the course specifically? What things were you kind of prioritizing in your search?
So coming from Tanzania, it's that you've never been abroad. I had never been abroad, and when it comes down to being looking for universities abroad, I think in terms of location, you're already abroad. So I was mostly looking into the grades, in terms of how they do in terms of the engineering department or the facilities and the research. Then I'll start looking onto how the reviews and testimonials from other students and how much support they provide to the students at the end of the day. So, and University of Bristol was among the top 10 and part of the Russell groups. So that's what brought me there.
And how did it compare for both of you? You obviously, when you've done the application and you know that it's coming up, you probably have a vision in your head, right, of how it's going to look and how life will look. How did that compare for you, Arya? Like, was it how you expected, or were there any surprises?
I think in many ways it was kind of how I expected. Of course, it was on a much broader scale when you're actually
Sure.
there in person. I knew that prior to applying, the Royal Academy of Music is a very prestigious school, and it was something that I had been dreaming of for a very long time. So I did know that the standards in terms of academic excellence was going to be very high, so I needed to prepare myself for that. And I also knew that the school has a very diverse environment because it attracts students from all around the world due to its reputation and prestige. And when I did come to the UK, I definitely had to get used to the sort of academic system, although it was a smoother transition due to the fact that I was able to come from Spain rather than coming from Turkey. I think if I came from Turkey, it would have been a much more drastic change, but
Or soften the blow a little bit.
yeah, it's sort of softened the blow, and because coming from a European education system, it's a bit more similar. So I think I was more prepared for that in that sense, and yeah, overall it's been quite smooth due to the fact that I was able to do it gradually, and yeah.
Would you agree with that, Malcolm?
That's an amazing experience, to be honest. On the other side, coming to the UK, I think it was just I mean, the way you'd see the UK on YouTube, and you see the televisions, or on the photos on Google.
Seeing the cobbled streets and Buckingham Palace and all of us drinking our tea.
The phone booth.
Yeah, I think it was a whole big experience, I would say, especially when it comes down to the weather. Because people, you hear jokes, everyone talks about the weather, but then as soon as you get here, you start talking about the weather yourself.
We converted you.
Yeah, so in terms of my experience coming into the UK, I think it was quite a big, drastic change. And one thing about the UK is that it's a big step for anyone that is going abroad, especially as Arya mentioned it right now, that coming from a totally different culture and totally different end of the continent, I think it's quite a big step in the sense of how the culture, the people, I think the mindset, and also how each individuals in the UK is more open and more driven to communicate.
So tell us a little bit, Malcolm, about Bristol. What have you made of it so far?
I think Bristol, what I've made of Bristol, I'd say it's my friends. Bristol is it's a place filled with love, from my experience, community, and togetherness. It's a place which embraces diversity and community building. So I'd very much say that I feel so comfortable. I feel a sense of belonging in Bristol, from my friends to my professors to the people that I just ran into Bristol. And the hills, to be honest. Bristol is lots of hills and scenery.
That's so nice.
I love it.
Pick up Bristol. I'm pleased that Bristol's been welcoming to you. And of course, the UK, plenty of areas to go. You've got your Scotlands and Wales and Northern Ireland and the whole of England to explore as well. Have you managed to sort of get around at all?
Oh my, talking about Wales, I love Wales.
Oh yeah?
It's just like a few, half an hour train stay.
Yeah, very close from Bristol.
Close. Lots of castles and very good rugby team. One thing I would advise, if you come to England, you should go to a Wales game, a rugby game.
Rugby
Six
game.
Nations. Fantastic.
Very, very good.
Yeah.
And for anyone who hasn't seen rugby, do you want to just describe it to people? Because I know rugby is not necessarily a global sport. How would you describe it to people who haven't seen rugby?
I think lots of passion and energy. Yeah, it's just it's an interesting sport. I would say.
Yeah, Malcolm's being diplomatic there. It is basically just a load of people jumping on each other, but it's great fun, and we get really into it here. Was there anything that sort of confused you when you moved to the UK? Anything that took you by surprise?
I think before coming to England, when it came down to utensils, there's a fork, there's a knife, and there's a spoon. When you come to England, there's a fork, there's a knife, and there's 2 spoons. Now, there is 2 spoons. Now, at first, in the first week, my friends would say to me, "Hey, Malcolm, we're going to Spoons. Do you want to tag along?" I'd be like, "Spoons? Okay." Would go. Then the next time, Spoons. But then I later found out Spoons is the name of a place to socialize. And
Yeah.
I had the same problem.
Spoons.
For the first 2 weeks, everyone was saying, "Oh, let's go to Spoons." What is Spoons? I kept thinking like, what?
Oh, no.
And then I realized Weatherspoon.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, no.
That was definitely very confusing.
How was the first week, Arya? Like, how did I imagine that is a week where there is a lot going on in your brain?
Yeah, definitely. It was definitely a shock. Not a shock in the sense, kind of like what you were saying, Malcolm. I sort of had an image in my head of what it was going to be like because I had seen a lot of TV shows and movies.
Uh-huh.
But when you actually come to the UK, for me specifically, I remember like just stepping outside of the tube and being like, "Oh my God, I'm actually here." And then going to the school, going to the induction week. The first thing that I felt, I'll be completely honest, was I remember seeing a lot of British students just talking to each other and saying, "Hey, how are you?" And I was like, "Do you all know each other from beforehand? Is it just me that I don't know anybody here?" But then actually it was a very easy, smooth process to adapt because there were a lot of other students, international students, that were also feeling like me, and I met some of them throughout the first day, and then obviously throughout the first week. And I realized that I wasn't the only one that felt somewhat scared or intimidated in a way, because obviously I was stepping into an environment that I hadn't encountered before. So it was an interesting experience in that sense. But it was a lot more smooth because of the support that I received from other students who were also in the same situation.
That's
as
the
me.
thing, isn't it? There are so many people in the same boat. And even as an international student, you maybe think that, "Oh, I'm the only international student." Of course you're not. There's loads, and there are loads of people in a very, very similar position to you. What about accommodation, Malcolm? How did you find the process of trying to find the right accommodation? Did you feel supported and feel like you had the resources you needed?
When it comes down to the accommodation, I think looking back now, I would say accommodations, it's more like a gamble in the sense that you would get your flatmates and your com, and then they're going to be your friends for life, for especially for university. But then when it comes down for my Malcom Kazimil at application stage, I would say one thing that I came to value so much was just doing some research and trying to look into other students' experiences. And one thing that stood out to me, that if your university has if the uni offers catered and you're able to afford for catered, I think I'd very much push for international students to go for catered. And why catered? I think it's because for my own experience, I stayed at a catered accommodation, and I think food unites people from where I come from. So it's the opportunity to eat with people, to interact with other students in the first few weeks, and you'll be seeing them every day. So that builds a sense of community because you'll be able to see each other in the morning for breakfast and in the evening for dinner. So I think for first year, if you're able to get a catered accommodation, it would be amazing. If you're not able to get a catered, or you want another accommodation, I think it's still quite a good opportunity for you to look for an accommodation that is close to uni for location, but then also if it's catered, it's quite a good way to build a community.
And how did you find the food?
The food
You can be honest. You can be honest on this podcast.
At that time, I wasn't used to food without spices. But then now I think I'm becoming a bit British.
Okay. What's your favourite British food so far?
I would say Sunday roast.
Sunday roast?
Yeah,
Ooh.
I love the Sunday roast.
Favourite part of a Sunday roast?
The chicken.
The chicken. Chicken. Not Brussels sprouts or anything? No, Arya?
No, I've never had a Sunday roast.
You haven't had a Sunday roast?
No, I have not.
Okay, we're going to pause the podcast here and we'll wait for Arya to have a Sunday roast and then we'll resume recording. Okay? Yeah, we'll see you shortly. On the accommodation, seriously, we are getting you a Sunday roast after this, okay? On the accommodation, there are a lot of options. And again, it comes down to what you prioritize, right? In terms of, do you want to be close to where your lectures maybe are going to be?
Yeah.
Do you want to be in the community if it's a campus university and you're far away from the city? Lots of things to try and factor in, right, Arya?
Yes, I mean, in my case, we don't really have a campus, so the academy is sort of its own institution. But although it is tied to the University of London, but the building is at the heart of the city centre. And in my first year, it was important for me to be close, just because I obviously wasn't familiar with the city, and I wanted to also, if possible, not pay for transport. So I chose an accommodation. We received a possible list of accommodations from the University of London because my school doesn't have its own accommodation just for its students. So I went to one of the student accommodations that was, again, provided by the University of London. And I will say, very honestly, the food was rubbish, but...
That's fine. This is a safe space, this podcast.
But I do agree with you, Malcom, in the sense that I met so many lovely people having terrible food at breakfast and dinner, but there are friendships that I still have to this day, and I really appreciate that because it's just been so much fun. And also, it's a great experience because you bond over the terrible food. Sometimes, of course, depending on the accommodation, the food will be better or worse. I mean, the place that I live in right now, which is also 5 minutes from my school, it has great food, and also you can again bond with people, just having dinner, lunch together, sometimes brunch together on the weekends. It really just depends. But yeah.
And just to add on to your point, I think one thing that actually amused me is that there's so many types of accommodations to cater for everyone. Because one thing that I was quite taken aback was the point of having a diverse inclusiveness. So there's each, you know how like my accommodation, where there's the different flats for each specific group that you're able to just choose. So I think that's stood out quite the most to me. And for first year, I think I would say it's always best to just go for a university accommodation to meet other students.
Yeah, I think it's easier than having a shared flat in the first year because, again, you're going through this adaptation process. It's nice to be around fellow students, and also you most likely don't know anybody in the city either, wherever it is that you're located. So it is nice to be in a building with fellow students, and then you also feel supported. You are also a support to the other students. It's just a very nice relationship to build. And then from then on, either way, after a few months of building those friendships, usually people do decide to, move to private accommodation together anyway.
And it all depends as well, doesn't it, on what region you're in. I mean, for you, Arya, you're in London, so there's a lot going on. But also, it's a good point that often, I think maybe there is a misconception that the UK is London, and it's absolutely not. There are so many different parts of the UK. The Scotland, England, Northern Ireland, they all have different parts as well. You, of course, have found yourself in Bristol. How pleased are you that you kind of looked towards those other regions and other areas?
I think I'm quite grateful that I was able to look to Bristol because, I kid you not, the only place I knew from the UK was London. So coming to Bristol...
It's a big place, I understand.
So coming to Bristol, I think I came straight to Bristol when I first came to uni. So I landed in Bristol. So I'd never been to London until like 6 months later. And when I first took my first step in London, when I went to visit London, it was quite hectic, quite fast-paced compared to how other areas of England is. So it's quite an experience on how different yet the same the UK is.
I tend to have the opposite experience because obviously I live in London, but whenever it doesn't happen very often, but sometimes either if I, let's say, take a day trip or a couple days trip, depending on, sometimes I will have concerts outside of London or things like that. And when I have to travel outside, it's always very different because London, like you said, is a very fast-paced city. There's so much happening at the same time. There's so many people and just a lot of noise and energy. all the time. So when you do get out of London, it is actually very peaceful for me. It's nice to experience the contrast of maybe a bit more tranquil environment sometimes. But I will also say that the fast-paced environment does motivate you to get your work done and move along with everybody else. So it has its pros and cons, definitely.
It's all about that, isn't it? Finding what's right for you, creating a pros and cons list, seeing what kind of, and where you've come from as well, and how you can compare them. And what about things like clubs and societies? So once you're over and you sort of settle in a little bit, how much have clubs and societies for you, Malcolm, kind of, or other options, have they helped you to settle in, meet people, and actually sort of feed into the culture?
I think look at it now, I would say clubs and societies are like the heart of the university experience, because that's where you'd meet. That's where I met my friends. Apart from my accommodation and university, I have a lot of friends.
Apart from your food friends.
And my food. I would say the opportunity to go for clubs and societies, because that's where you'd meet people who have the same taste.
Sure.
In different, for example, I'm part of my athletics track society. We run together. I'm part of the Bristol Electrical Engineering Society. We just do some electrical engineering things together.
Just some engineering.
Stuff.
Just a little bit of engineering on the side.
It's a good opportunity to just, go for the societies, because at the end of the day, there's more to university than just going to class. So, and there's so many opportunities outside class through the societies and clubs. And especially in the first 2 weeks, I think I would say there's so many give it a goes, and that's an opportunity for you to utilize. I went to all of them. For free food, free stuff, and just
for free things, absolutely. And if free things get you into it, then
when you're a student, you just have to take the chance. If somebody's giving you free things, go for it.
Yeah. And like Malcolm said, like trying stuff is so important, right, Arya? Like just go for it, see what you like and what you don't like.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in terms of societies, for example, my experience is very different because my school is a small institution, so we have at least compared to a bigger scale university, we have about 800 people. So there's not much happening, and everybody does music. And we do have some clubs and some societies, but it isn't very, there isn't a very big selection of them, let's say. Or a lot of times people are studying all the time or practicing their instruments, whatever it may be that they're doing, or doing concerts and things like that. So it's a very different environment. I remember, I think in my first year, so we have this freshers fair in the beginning of the year where all the clubs and societies are introduced. There are also some, companies and things like that, orchestras that come to the freshers fair with their representatives to, explain to us what they do and whether or not we would like to work with them and things like that. But I joined a book club because I love reading. And I remember I went, I think, to the first couple of meetings and it was just me that showed up. And I think that's just...
I mean, to be fair, if there's any kind of club that only needs you, reading's not a bad one because you don't need other people to read. But...
That is true, but it is... I think it would be nice sometimes, for my school specifically, for people to branch out and try new things because it would have been lovely to share that experience with other people if we're reading something together and then we can chat about it and talk about it. I already do that with some of my friends now, but we definitely don't have that culture of clubs and societies, and I really wish that we had it. That's definitely something that I missed.
I'm just go on, Malcolm.
I just add on to Arya's point. I think how coming to England as an international student, if you feel shy, as you said, the times you feel like, oh my, am I the only international student out here? But then if you sit down and think about it, you've come such a long distance. So it's a whole new chapter for you to just write your own story. So I'd say, come here, go out. The society, there's so many societies, so many clubs. Take advantage of them, give it a try,
Yeah.
And just, This is like your opportunity to start a whole new life.
That's a refreshing way of putting it. I like that.
Yeah.
Wise words. Very good. Also, I've got to ask, does anyone now turn up to the book club?
No, because I was the only one that turned up for a few sessions. They just...
it's disbanded?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
It was very sad. But I did read all of the books that they recommended, and it was really good. I just wish that I could have shared that with somebody. So do go to
I think
the
we should go
clubs
for
and
the book club
societies.
I think we should.
Yeah,
We
we
should UCAS book club. You heard it here
UCAS
first.
book club. We'll go read a book, then we'll take it for a Sunday roast.
Exactly.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll get it in the diary. On to some of the more serious stuff now. Let's talk about like workloads and the actual degrees themselves. How did they compare for you, Malcolm? The actual degree in terms of what you were taking on. How did that compare to what you expected?
I think for first year, I was quite shocked for the first 3 months in the sense that we weren't able to, like, the workload for the first 3 months for engineering was quite less than expected.
Uh-huh.
And the main reason behind this was that they're trying to make sure that everyone was on the same page. So the first 3 months of university was just like Freshers Week, getting to know your professors, field trips, like went to the Aerospace Museum, the Concorde.
Very
Then
good.
after that, after the 3 months, then they just that was first year. So after 3 months, they try to just give you step by step, in the sense that they're trying their best to just make sure that everyone is able to get to know the best way that works for them. Because university, I kid you not, it's so different to A levels. It's very challenging and in a good way. And I think for first year, to be exact, I think it's just the workload is more than high school, but then there's just so much room for you to grow. There's just so much space for you to learn and make mistakes, because first year doesn't count. But then it does count in the sense that it builds you up for second and third year. Because second year, I kid you not, I'm in second year and I'm crying.
Oh no!
But then, I mean, I'm crying to tears of joy. And,
Okay.
and you know, but then it's just that I think for first year, the workload is more because it's another step. But then at the same time, it's just a whole new experience to just find the best way that works for you, to discover who you are, and just to see what way would go for the next few years. So it's quite accommodating, I would say, in terms of the workload.
And of course, all of these degrees and courses have different structures and things like that. How did you find it in terms of, I guess, because your degree is quite a creative degree, right? So how's that been?
Yeah, I mean, my degree actually surprisingly also has a lot of academic work. Also, I think this might depend
So
on
you're telling
whether
me
or
you're
not-
not just playing the cello?
No, we're doing a lot of academic work, but I think that also is dependent on whether or not you're doing a degree with honors. So my degree is with honors, which means we have more academic workload on top of the practical work that we do, which is playing, or if you're a composer or something like that, composing. It really depends on your field. But I also found that it was very accommodating because, like Malcolm said, the first year doesn't count. So you do actually have enough time to adapt to your environment and see how the course structure is, what you are expected to do, and how you can prepare yourself for everything that is coming up later on. It is definitely a lot of work.
Yeah.
I won't lie and say that it is easy. It's not easy, but it's very rewarding at the same
that's
time.
true.
And I think my school also has exceptions for people. For example, if you have a learning disability or something like that, you can receive support from the school on that. Or if for international students, if English isn't your first language, you can also receive English language support as well. I think it's very important to take advantage of those resources if you feel that you need that kind of support. But it is definitely challenging because you're adapting to a new environment. But it is also, you do feel supported. So definitely take advantage of that, and don't be afraid to reach out if you do need that.
That's the thing. That's the importance, isn't it? Finding the resources, not being afraid to ask questions.
Yeah.
Were you similar in terms of the kind of resources that you seeked?
Yeah, I think it's the same because there's such a good support system.
Yeah.
So I very much try to utilize all the resources available, because, like, you know how there's so much they give in terms of the university, in the sense that it's a big institution, but yet you can never feel alone if you reach out, hold people's hands, and let other people hold your hands. Because the services I utilized in my first year, I would say there's the career services, and to just build my employability status. But at the same time, there's a specific department which is called how to study better, in the sense that you're able to utilize to try to see how you can manage your time, how you can explore other studying techniques like Pomodoro, or other ways to just see what works best for you. So I'd say it's a good place to have a good support system.
Asking questions, always very
Always ask
important.
questions.
To round this off, a couple of questions that I would like you to
Yeah.
both answer. Firstly, are you pleased that you made the move and came over to the UK? And secondly, what is the sort of one piece of advice you would give your younger self, aka those other students listening and watching this, thinking, don't I come to the UK? Malcolm, we'll start with you first.
I think I'm very grateful. I'm in the UK. I'm very, very happy, to be honest. I think I'm very happy and grateful to be in the UK in the sense that it's a community of people that is very supportive, in the sense that it's more home away from home.
Mhm.
Again, because in the beginning, when I first came to Bristol, the first few weeks, the weather, the food, I had so much homesickness, But then you're able to, because how open and welcoming everyone is, it's just like a whole new community that you're able to build. So I think an advice I would give to you listening, or to my younger self, I'd just say it's a whole new opportunity for you to just build your life at the same time, to just discover your potential and grow. So whenever you come to the UK, I think I would say, if you do come to the UK, I hope you do. Talk to people, and eat the food, explore, live life, and have an amazing time. Yeah. What did you say?
I'm also very pleased that I came to the UK. I think, regardless of anyone's experience, it's just a great way
Yeah.
to expand your horizons. You're coming to a different country. You're growing so much as a person because of it. It is definitely uncomfortable at first because you're doing something that is very outside of one's comfort zone. But it has been so rewarding, and I'm really glad that I'm here. And the one advice that I would give my younger self, or myself that was applying to come to the UK, would be, ask for support if you
Yeah.
need it. It's completely okay and natural, if anything. Just when you're unsure of something, ask questions to people. Tell them, you know what? I am kind of struggling a bit. If you could give me a helping hand, I would really appreciate that. And most of the time, people are more than willing to help you.
Yeah.
They have been through similar experiences before, and they do want to support you in that journey. So don't be afraid to reach out. I cannot emphasize this, stress this enough. Please do reach out because you are supported.
Yeah. And just to add on, I think one other point, especially in first year, you're always going to be catching up. So never feel that you're too behind, because everyone is going to be behind. So, yeah,
Everyone's on their own path.
indeed.
Good
Yeah.
way to end it. That's a strong ending. I like that very much indeed. Listen, thank you so much to both of you for coming on, and I'm so pleased that you are enjoying your time in the UK, and I hope it all continues to go well. Shall we go and read a book and have a roast dinner?
Yes.
Let's
I
do
think
that.
we should. Good stuff. Arya, Malcolm, thank you very much indeed. Don't forget, loads of other resources available, of course, at ucas.com/international. And you can like and subscribe to this series on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll speak very soon. Let's go have that roast dinner. I'm going to have some extra gravy, okay?